Can I get through this without crying? That is the question. I always tell people that I remember the exact moment that I knew I was pregnant. It was spring break of my freshman year, and a few friends of mine and I went home from school, and we were just hanging around my house. My child's father also came home with me for that spring break, or came down to visit me for that spring break, and so we were all just hanging out in the living room, chilling and watching TV. And I ended up getting really hungry, so I went into the kitchen and made myself a bowl of cereal, Apple Jacks to be exact. And so I got my bowl of Apple Jacks, took it back into the living room, sat down on the couch, and literally I went to go eat my first bite of Apple Jacks, and the moment that the aroma of the Apple Jacks, like the milk and the sweetness and the sugar and all of that, hit my nose, I immediately felt like I was going to throw up. And even though nothing was confirmed yet, I knew in my heart of hearts that I was pregnant. The moment that it was confirmed that I was actually pregnant, I found out when I was about 6 weeks along. I was completely terrified. I did not know what I was going to do. I did not know how I was going to take care of this child. I was a freshman in college. I came to school to kick it, to have fun, to really discover who I was, and I found myself in a situation that I always told myself that I would never put myself in. And so it was a really tumultuous time for me. I went through a lot mentally, emotionally, but the biggest thing that I felt in navigating finding out that I was pregnant most of all was shame. I really shamed myself for putting myself in that position, and would always just really get down on myself because I felt like I had failed myself and I had failed those who were rooting me on as well. So in all of those negative emotions that I was feeling, I needed to make some decisions, and I needed to make them quickly. I ultimately decided to keep my child, and I needed to also make the decision of whether I was going to stay in school or not. So the one person that I thought to go to help me kind of navigate what was going on was this particular school administrator that I semi-looked up to at that point, but also was just really well regarded on campus. And so when I had walked into her office, I was just like, hey, I need to talk to you about something really important. She was just like, sure, come have a seat. And so as soon as I sat down, I basically told her, I was like, I'm pregnant. And the response that I got from her was very judgmental. It was not supportive in any way. And it really threw me for a loop because I was already going through so much emotionally. I did not expect that response from somebody that I was going to for help. And so even though I was going through all of those negative emotions, and I had this really negative experience with somebody who in so many words told me that if I didn't give up my child, then I wasn't going to amount for anything, I knew in that moment that I needed to prove her and other folks who were going to feel that way wrong, because I knew that even though this situation was not the most ideal situation in the world, it was not going to define me, and I knew that I was going to have and live a very different life than I had growing up, and now I had the biggest motivation in the world to do that for my child. So regardless if she believed in me or others believed in me, I did, and that was really a guiding motivation in helping me stay focused, stay in school, and really just keep going for the sake of myself and my child. So that decision to stay in school wasn't an easy one. I had to navigate being a full-time student and a mother at the same time. I ended up having to take off my fall semester of my sophomore year, and really had to motivate myself to keep going despite my circumstances. I had to figure out a whole new world. I had to learn how to be a mother. I had to learn how to apply for public aid. I had to learn how to change diapers. It was so much stuff that I had to learn on top of papers, on top of projects, on top of tests. So while the decision to keep my child or to stay in school wasn't an easy one, I knew that it was going to be one that would drastically change the course of both of our lives. So the biggest help that I had while in school were two things. The first thing was the institution that I had went to. I went to Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. And when I tell you, looking back on it, it was a blessing in disguise to be at that institution, because SIUE really caters to family. And honestly, had they not had the programs or the housing options that they have, I don't know if I would have finished school in the amount of time that I did. And so it was a really great experience to have an institution that really understood the challenges that families have when they're trying to go to college, and me being able to take advantage of that. The second thing that was the biggest help for me while in college was my community. I had the best community in the world. From my friends to my family to, like I said, my supervisors to my professors, everyone really rallied behind me and supported me to make sure that I continued to not only stay in school, but actually have a social life. I honestly would not trade any of them for the world. Like, I had people watching CJ while I went to parties. Like, it was the best. Like, my community was top notch, and literally everybody who supported me, who watched CJ, who bought something for me, that meant the entire world to me. And so I don't know how I could have gotten through it without any of them. So some advice that I would give to folks who are pregnant in college or have kids and trying to navigate staying in school is to never give up. You will have people who will doubt you, who will talk about you, who won't support you. But what I want you to do is look them dead in the eye and let them know, use a lie, because they do not create your story. You do. And the only person who can stop you from pursuing your dreams is you. And even though having a child is extremely hard, that does not stop the show. It does not stop your progression moving forward. Not only was I able to graduate with my bachelor's degree, I was able to go back and get my master's degree, which is a huge blessing. People who thought I wasn't going to finish my bachelor's would have never thought that I would go back and get my master's. And so what I want to say is just never give up. Keep proving people wrong. Keep giving people something to talk about, baby, because your kids will not stop where you are going in life. They will only add to it. The other piece of advice that I would give is carve out your purpose, not only for you, but for your family. I grew up very poor and didn't have a lot of things that I wanted or needed growing up. And I knew I did not want that situation to be the same for my son. And so everything I did really drove me to making sure that he did not live the same life that I did. I knew that I wanted to have a career. I wanted to have a job where I loved going to work. I didn't want to just work for the sake of working or work to pay bills. I didn't want to work, pay bills, and die. You know, I really wanted to do something that I loved and something that mattered to me. And so those two things really drove me in being able to shape and carve out the purpose, not only for myself, but for my son as well. And they became my biggest motivating factors. So as you are navigating this very intense but yet exhilarating time, begin to know what your purpose is. own that, embrace that, and be unapologetic with that. This is a journey that I wouldn't give up for anything in the world. It's been one of my most challenging moments of my life, but it's also been the moment that has made me into the woman that I am today. It has taught me resilience. It has taught me what compassion and true love looks like. It's also taught me what true support looks like as well. I know now that I can do anything if I put my mind to it, and as long as I stay true to my purpose, then I know I can achieve anything. And so even though I didn't go to college thinking that I was going to get pregnant, I was able to get through it. And for those of you who find yourselves in that exact same situation, know that you can get through it. You can achieve your dreams, and I'm so incredibly blessed to not only have the community that I did, to have the institution that I also went to, but to also have my son. He is one of the biggest motivating factors in my life, the biggest headache too. Now, we gonna be real about that, okay? But I love him to death, and I will never forget the moment that I graduated with my bachelor's degree, and after I had walked across that stage and walked out of that gym and was going to see where my family was, and I saw his little face, and he smiled at me and he ran to me and said, "Mommy!" I just knew I did it not only for him, but for myself. And so cherish the moments that you have. Never give up, because y'all, you can do it. I know I did.